everyone, my name is Sharon Sherry and I'm your host for this ARRA Author Chat this evening. It's my pleasure to welcome multi-published author MJ Scott. Welcome, MJ.
Hello, and thanks for having me.
It's absolutely our pleasure. Before we get started asking questions today, let me tell you a little bit about our guest. MJ grew up in a family of avid readers who fostered her love of words. A long-time reader of fantasy and romance, it was inevitable that her own stories combine the two genres. Her unpublished novels have won a number of awards, including the Romance Writers of Australia's Emerald Award, the Valerie Parv Award, and the Romance Writers of New Zealand's Clendon Award, just a few. She is a two-time finalist in the Romance Writers of America Golden Heart Award as well. Shadowkin was her debut novel and has won praise from 3 New York Times best-selling authors and was a finalist in the 2011 Australian Romance Readers Association Awards in the favourite sci-fi, urban fantasy and futuristic category. Bloodkin has been nominated in the same category for the 2012 award. Yay! She lives in Melbourne, Australia, where she distracts herself with books, cats and yarn when she's not writing. And just in case you want to know it, though I'll try and repeat it at the end, her website is www.mjscott.net. Now, MJ, I'll beg your patience for just a few moments before we hand over. I just want to read something for those who haven't read your books. They never hear me coming. Revenge is silent. Shadows make no sound, nor do those who I'm asked to visit. They only look surprised at the last. No wonder. My kind is legend, a tale told in darkness to chill the heart. But all legends have a basis in truth, and so it is with us. Shadowkin, they call me, those who know. Wraith, they whisper, as they look over their shoulders and tighten their defences. Slave might be closer to the truth. A powerful piece of writing indeed. Readers, how could you not want to read on? Alrighty, now we'll dive into some questions from our readers, especially Heather, who took the time to send a number through, MJ, and we'll get to know a bit more about you. Heather Keaton asks, how did the world of the Half-Light City series develop? Did their world come to you and you sketched it out, or did the characters make themselves known to you first?
Well, for that book, I was actually lying in bed one night and sort of drifting off to sleep when a voice in my head said, "Revenge is silent," so that's the line from that little opening bit. And I sort of went, okay, what does that mean? And then I was lying there and Lily started talking in my head, so I had to get up and I wrote for about an hour and a half that night till about 2 o'clock in the morning, then thought better go to bed because I had to go to work the next day. But that's how the book started, so I just got this very vivid, the first scene of the book, and had to keep writing. So it started with Lily, I guess, popping up in my head and demanding some attention.
Great, love it. How long did it take you to write Shadowkin? And did the other 3 take longer, or did they come to you more quickly because you were on a roll?
I think Shadowkin probably took about 6 months. I had a bit of a break from it because I was working on something else, and then I came back to it. But the others have all taken a similar period of time, but possibly more spread out because I've, once you start selling, you have to come back and do edits and copy edits on various books, so you don't get to work on just one book at a time anymore. But it tends, 4 to 6 months, I guess, most of them have taken.
Let's talk a bit more about Shadowkin, your first book in the series. I love the characters of Lily and Simon and wondered, how did you come up with the idea for them? Was it a case of opposites attract, or was that the basis of the conflict, being at such opposite ends of the spectrum, killer and healer, shadow and sun?
Yeah, because Lily appeared in my head and she was so vivid, and once I worked out, what her power was, that, in darkness she can essentially walk through walls, etc., I guess, and I knew that she was a fairly bad girl, so I was interested in doing that sort of bad girl and a really good hero, and not necessarily super alpha hero, but just a really good hero. And so I always I think Lois McMaster Bujold sort of says, well, what's the worst thing I can do to this character in any situation? So I think for both of them it was like, well, fall in love with the person who really is your complete opposite, and to the point that, Simon's power can nullify Lily's power. So, but also that he strengthens her in a lot of ways by seeing the real her and not just what she can do for him. So, yeah, I guess it was that opposites attract, you know, both ends of the spectrum, and how can you move from one to the other. So, you know, Lily needs to move into the light, but Simon also needs to embrace a bit of his darkness to get the job done that they need to do.
Alrighty, thanks for that. Heather asks, is it difficult to keep track of the different elements of the Half-Light City? Oh, sorry, the Half-Light City world. And do readers notice if you ever make a world or character error? And what is the simplest mistake, if ever, that you have made that a reader has found?
Luckily, I've never actually had a reader point out an error to me, other than a few typos. I did find the funniest one that I found was, luckily, before Shadowkin came out, there's a scene where Simon is with a vampire, and I originally had him using his power to light a sun lamp, which is, you know, power of the sun, which would have instantly vaporized the vampire in question. So luckily I caught that in time and changed it to, it was just a regular gas lamp, so there was no exploding fiery vampire death. Seeing it was a nice vampire, we didn't want that. So as for keeping track of it, I actually have a spreadsheet, so like a world Bible that has lists of names and places and the Fae language that I use, and people's names and main characters' hair and eye colours and things, because it is quite complicated once you get to book 4 with 8 different protagonists and lots of characters. So yes, I keep track of it, being a little bit of a nerd, in a spreadsheet to keep me on the straight and narrow. And then I can give that to the copy editors and things as well, which makes it easy for them to pick up mistakes as well.
I have to say I've absolutely loved your covers. Some authors complain about their covers, but I think yours have been pretty damn nice. Are you happy with them?
I love my covers. The art rock department is full of magical fairies who have been very kind to me. Yeah, I like when I first saw the Shadowkin cover, I was essentially dancing around my bedroom going, yay! Because yes, some people get absolutely hideous covers, and I've just recently got the Firekin cover, and that's up on my blog. I don't know, maybe if I hold it up on my iPad it might come through the camera, but it's another ripper of a cover, so I've, let me see if I can bring it up. Does that show up if I hold it up? It's going to be backwards, but it's kind of cool. There you go. Very. But that's up on my blog as well at the moment. But yeah, so I'm very happy with that, and it was funny when I sold my contemporary romances to Jennifer Enderlin at Sir Martin's Press. We were talking on the phone shortly after the sale had been made, and she was looking at my MJ website. She's going, wow, great covers. And I was like, yes, you're going to have to like do good work and beat those. So maybe we'll get a bit of competition between the publishers to see who can come up with better and better covers. They'll have to be doing well to beat those, the Half-Light ones, because I really like them all.
Yeah, I think you're right. But you just never know. As you say, a bit of healthy competition.
Yes. Never know. Maybe I'll get a boy on the contemporaries.
Okay, we have another question from Heather. Which do you prefer, telling the story from the male perspective or the female perspective when writing your stories?
I don't know if I have a strong preference for one or the other. I think you have to think a bit harder when you're writing from a guy's point of view, because it can be a little bit easy to maybe slip into that idealized what you think a guy is thinking, rather than sometimes what a guy might actually think. So you have to, I think I do more editing of my guys, but I tend to, once I get into the swing of how a character thinks, they all seem to flow fairly easy for me. It's just how I tweak them afterwards to make sure that they're individual and, yes, are sounding like a guy, not a woman pretending to be a guy. So hopefully that works.
In Ironkin, Saskia and Fenn's story, which is the 3rd book in the series, I'm loving the way Fenn knows peace and quiet when he's with Saskia. Did having to put up with the extreme pain of your broken ankle while you were writing this novel lead you to write the story where pain magically stops by any chance?
You know, I've never actually thought about that. It was definitely, I definitely had more sympathy for a character who has something that's quite debilitating. Not that my ankle was ever excruciatingly painful after the first few days, but just that, like, I was in a walking boot for 3 months, and it was my right foot, so I couldn't drive, couldn't get around by myself. So just that constant awareness of something that's holding you back and isn't quite right. So yes, maybe it would be nice to have someone who could just magically come in and distract you from it all and make it all go away. Sadly, that did not happen, and I just had to put up with it till it was better, but Fen's lucky.
Okay. Heather and I both wanted to ask you, what is Firekin about? Whose story is it? And when will it be in our hot, pardon the pun, little hands?
Yes. Okay. So Firekin comes out May next year. I want to say May the 6th. I may have that date wrong, but May next year is when it's out. It's Bryony is the heroine, and the hero is someone that we haven't met yet, someone who's coming back to the city, who's someone from her past as well. So that's interesting, doing a reunion type romance, but it was fun to get into Bryony's head because she was always a little bit standoffish and cool when I was writing the other ones, and a little bit detached, so it was fun to sort of see what really makes her tick and put her through her paces and some turmoil as well.
Do readers have to have read the 3 previous books in the quadrilogy to understand Firekin, or could they pick it up accidentally as a standalone?
Well, it's a standalone romance, and as I said, the hero is someone new that we haven't seen in the 3 other books. I guess the world would make a little bit more sense if you have read the other books, but hopefully it would make mostly sense, and I've put enough in there about what's gone on before to have it work fairly well as a standalone book. But it is the end of a series, so there's lots of wrapping up of threads and things. So
you're also working on a contemporary, or you're diving into your second contemporary. Tez Miller asks, what's the approximate release date for your upcoming contracted book there? You've just told us that May the 6th is the possible date for Firekin. What else is what other dates can we put in the diary?
So as far as I know, the first of my contemporary romances, so that's the New York Saints series, so it's about a group of 3 guys who buy the worst team in the Major League. So it's a 3rd baseball team that's based in New York, is coming out in September next year is the plan at this stage. I don't yet know what the approximate dates are for book 2 and 3 of that, but hopefully closer together rather than further apart, but we'll have to wait and see.
Given that you've delivered 2 books in the last year, and you're talking about that being a single series, do you have any other series planned?
Yes, I'm starting a new fantasy series. Well, hopefully it's a series at this stage. I have one more book contracted with Rock, which will be something new, so another sort of dark fantasy world that I'm just working on the first few chapters to flesh that out a bit more, and then I'll be writing that sort of early next year, hopefully after I've written book 2 and the baseball ones and done a fair chunk of book 3 of the baseball ones as well. So, but yes, I'll be not abandoning fantasy completely. I want to keep writing both. So more weird worlds for me in the works.
Yay! Is dark fantasy the only genre you're interested in writing under the MJ Scott brand, or will you kind of branch out a little?
Well, I like urban fantasy as well, so it's possible that I will write that in the future. I guess it's a never say never type situation, but I guess it will be a matter of what happens and what my publisher wants or other publishers want and what happens with the books. So, but yeah, I definitely like urban fantasy as well, so it will be interesting to see. But yeah, I'm definitely not just dark fantasy, so don't want to end up with too many pin names if I have to. If I want to write different things, it will just get confusing. So I'll try and stick to 2.
Absolutely. Watch this space, readers. Yeah. Well, MJ, I've exhausted our questions except for 2. This is one I often ask at the end of interviews. If you could hold a dinner party for up to 10 people, who would you invite? And I'm guessing that since you see Daniel Craig as Guy Duquesne when your book finally gets its movie, he'd be the first invitation?
I think I could bear to have dinner with Daniel Craig, yes. So how many does that leave me? 9 other people. Who would I want to have dinner with? I could fill it up with like 9 other hot guys, but that might be a little bit greedy of me. one of my all-time favourite writers is Terry Pratchett, so maybe Terry Pratchett as well. That's two English guys. Lois McMaster Bujold, who's a sci-fi fantasy writer. Let me see. Maybe Bono, just because I think he's an interesting guy, plus he has that very cute Irish accent and quite a good singer. So what's that for? Losing track. Joss Whedon, because I love his stuff. Who else? Maybe Chris Hemsworth. Got a little bit of a Chris Hemsworth thing going on lately, having seen Rush and Thor 2 in the last week and a half, and I don't usually go for the blonde guys, but other than Daniel Craig. So Chris Hemsworth. Who else would I like? I reckon Queen Elizabeth I. Am I allowed to have dead people?
Absolutely.
Queen Elizabeth I would be interesting, just to find out what really went on with her life versus all the little theories and suspicions that we hear about. And I'm losing track of how many is that. Is that 5? 6?
7.
7. Who else would I like to have dinner with? Jennifer Lawrence, because I think she would be highly entertaining and she would make us all laugh, and she's a very good actress. And then 2 more people. Hans Zimmer, who's like a movie score writer, so he did the score for like Gladiator and Pirates of the Caribbean and all sorts of movies, just because I really like his music. And then maybe, who else? Katharine Hepburn, because I think she was an excellent actress and she was pretty kick-ass as well in real life and a very interesting person. So there you go, there's my list. Be an eclectic dinner party.
Sounds like an awesome dinner party, and I have to admit I don't normally go for the blondes, but Chris Hemsworth does it for me as well. I wanted him to be cast as the lead in 50 Shades of Grey, but they didn't listen to him.
Well, he's not my idea of Christian, but he's definitely very hot, and I can see there might be another potentially blonde hero in my future, just so I can have him on my inspiration board.
All right, lastly, before I let you go, is there anything new and exciting that you'd like to share with our ARRA readers here before anyone else hears it?
No, I think all my news is out there at the moment. It's a pity I didn't have my cover a little bit later. I could have shared it exclusively, but my editor gave it to me a few weeks ago. It was too pretty not to share. But yes, no, book out in May, book out in September, and then I guess watch this space to see the continuing adventures of Mel. Hopefully no more broken bones or weird diseases. So lots of writing. So just keep an eye on the blog and social media.
Alrighty, MJ, thanks so much for your time today. Readers, don't forget to keep up with MJ Scott and Melanie Scott over at www.mjscott.net, where you can read her blog, find out when her eagerly awaited books will be available to us, and of course what else MJ is up to. Thanks again, MJ.
All right. Thanks for having me. It's lots of fun. And thank you to ARRA. You're a great group.
Thank you. Good night.
Bye.